Yeah, as long as I got some rifles out. Somebody had asked me a question about sights on an H&R the one time, and kind of, I'm not bothered by iron sights. I have no trouble, though my eyes aren't that great. I'm been wearing bifocals for 20 years, but when you learn how to use them, you can use them pretty well. This is my old Stevens, and this is what people normally think of when they think of iron sights. You got just a little adjustable V, and then in the end you got a little blade. This is actually kind of nice in that it's brass, and surprisingly, this gun is pretty darn accurate. You can get a good sight picture with those basic old sights, partly because they got a pretty big notch in here. So you can, once you figure out where you need to be, you can hit pretty well with that. Surprisingly, sometimes. Now, on the Marlin sights, the stock ones, now you've got this little, semi-buckhorn, but there's no adjustable insert, and there's just a small notch. And then they have, the front sight is hooded. It's a blade with a slight shape of a bead, but then they hood it so the light doesn't get in there. And it's nice in that it keeps the sight from getting bumped around, but I'm not all that fond about hooded sights. But that's pretty standard fare on a lot of Marlins. Not a lot of adjustment, just to fiddle in there, but you got to go between steps. Now, on my 4570, it came with these marble sights on. And I love those. You can see you've got an insert inside that actually, there's a screw, and it can be adjusted up or down for fine tuning between the notches. Also, it comes out and is reversible, so that, like, here is I'm on the large notch, but you can go onto the small notch too. It all depends on how you figure out how you're going to sight it. But then they run a brass bead on the front with a very narrow blade to it. That's really the best sight for me. I love the way you can drop that bead right down into that little notch, which is right above that little painted diamond, and you know right where you're at. It's just a good, solid sight. So that's why when I broke the front set off of my H&R, they had some kind of a cast blade, and it got snapped off. Well, I replaced it with a marble. Now, this is the smaller bead. Like I say, there's different sized beads. You can see that's much smaller and it's lower than the one on the Cowboy. Now, I love these marble sights. So when I had to replace this one, then I also replaced the rear sight with the marble one that has, there again, the same adjustable insert in it. The only thing about marble, they've been making sights forever, and they were standard equipment on a lot of guns, and they're great sights, but they come in an absolutely bewildering array of versions of different heights. It's amazing how many different ones there are. But I love the way that insert works. The original sight that came on my H&R was a simple little flip-up Lyman sight that had an insert, but that was the only adjustment you had was in that insert, so you're kind of fixed for range. If you go past what that is sighted in for, you're just kind of guessing. Though I've made some pretty good guesses. But the good thing about these, now you can set it so it's zeroed at 100 or at 200, and it's very easy to adjust out click after click, because I regularly do that. I've got it sighted for on the lowest click, but to go that 425, 450, I'm perched up here on which really isn't a click. It's kind of the last little vestige of a click. But that'll get me that range. But that's, why this sight now is to go beyond that. But marble sights are really, to me, the top. Like people always want to go with peep sights, which mount here, then you can't adjust them. These marbles are easily adjusted. The only drawback to the marble one is finding the right one or combination of sights that you need for your gun. Because like I say, there's just a bewildering array, and now they've even gotten it to be more complicated because they started doing a lot of fiber optic stuff. I'm not really into that. Just the straight out old marble sights that have been around for 100 years, that's what you want. They're excellent sight. Many of the people who say they can't shoot with iron sights can shoot with them. And, if you use them in that way, that bead drops down into that notch, anybody can shoot them and be accurate. I know I've had people, first time they shot this gun, I tell them how to use that sight, and they can hit right off the bat. But it's these old, knots with a blade, that's what screws people up, because they start using interpretations. But if you use them the way they're supposed to be used, the marbles are hard to beat.